Alright, so today we're going to be talking about a new video game that, while it hasn't come out yet, it is in early access and you can play it. And I'm not going to waste time, I'm just going to talk about it instead of having to... There's not going to be like much intro stuff here, I'll just get into the meat of the podcast. And I'll start it off with a basic summary of what the game is. Haunt Chaser is a co-op PvP, PvE, ghost hunting, asymmetrical horror game. I know that's a lot of titles, but it really gives you a feeling of if you mixed Phasmophobia with Dead by Daylight. That's just what the game is on the surface. Now I'm going to go into the slightly more meat of the review and talk about the actual game and gameplay now. The game is relatively simple at the moment. There's only one map. There's only one ghost. There hasn't been an update yet because we'll talk about that later in the video. But to start off, Haunt Chaser is it's an asymmetrical game. You can play it with your friends and against your friends, or you can play solo and against an AI, or you can play with your friends and against an AI. There's one survivor at minimum and 4 at maximum. And there can be 5 players in total if you get 4 survivors and then someone plays as the ghost. The basic gameplay follows a very sort of exorcism feeling game, because to basically summarize the plot of the mission that is the first level, you have to find the entity's heart and destroy it, or the spirit's heart, or the ghost's heart, whatever you want to call it. And to start off with that, you have to collect all these doll pieces by completing certain objectives. Your objectives are located somewhere on the screen and you can pull them up. When you do the objectives, you get a doll piece. Once you have the entire doll, you will be able to destroy the doll in an altar and then take the heart of the entity, take that heart to a different altar, and completely destroy it. And that's the thing, but you have to do it twice. There are 2 dolls you need to collect, and you need to destroy them both. Now, the actual objectives. There are a bunch of objectives that are constantly switching around and changing, so I'm not going to go over all of them. But in Haunt Chaser, you have an inventory, and some of the items in your inventory are key to the objectives, like, say, the You need the crystal, the ultraviolet crystal for some objectives. You need the parabolic microphone for some objectives. You need the camera for some objectives. And while we're on the topic of inventory items that help you get objectives done, might as well just go over everything in the inventory. There's an EMF reader, which will tell you a basic location of the ghost. It's like the EMF reader in Phasmophobia, so don't expect much difference. It doesn't tell you where the ghost is, it just tells you how close it is to you. The camera is probably the most efficient tool at seeing the ghost, because the ghost is actually the ghost has multiple abilities. You can see the ghost coming at you unless it is invisible, but lucky for you, the camera reveals invisible things. So you can use that. The camera is actually probably better at finding the ghost than the EMF, which just tells you that it's near. But sometimes the EMF lies to you, and I'll get into that when I start talking about general gameplay mechanics. There are other items in your inventory that are also used for protection instead of anything else. There are these two items called sigils and wards. And they're basically tools to protect you from the ghost. I don't remember which one does which, but one of them, either the sigil or the ward, can be used to block doorways and prevent the ghost from getting in for a small while. And the other will place a trap on the floor that if the ghost steps on, these spiritual chains will come up and wrap around it, slowing it down and then eventually completely stopping it. In which case the ghost will disappear. Now, there is one other defensive item that you must be very careful when you use. That is the proton blast. The proton blast sounds like it's something straight out of Star Wars. Now, if you use it on the ghost will be temporarily banished. But here's the thing, unless you're on the difficulty of easy or very easy, the proton blast does not recharge. The only way to get your proton flash back is to collect a doll piece. After you collect a doll piece, you'll be able to use your proton flash again. And even on easy and very easy, it takes a while to get back just without grabbing a piece anyway. And that's everything in the inventory. Now game mechanics. Let's actually talk about some of the ghost abilities first. The ghost can turn invisible, as I already said, and the ghost moves at the same speed of survivors, which is why it has a speed boost ability. That way, if survivors see you, instead of just running you for eternity like some survivors can in DBD, you can use a speed boost to catch up with them, or you can ambush them with your invisibility. If the ghost catches you, you'll be sucked into his lantern that he carries around, so prepare to get sucked if you ever play this game. against this specific whatever. Prepare to get sucked, prepare to get fucked. And anyways, those are like the two main abilities that are vital to the ghost, because if it didn't have a speed boost and it didn't have invisibility, it would pretty much have no way of catching a survivor. Now we've talked about the survivors, we've talked about the ghost entity, whatever you want. Now let's talk about the map. And this is where Haunt Chaser really gets a horrifying feel for it. It only has one map so far, and that map is called the Orphanage. However, the Orphanage map is split up into multiple different sections. There's a cemetery, there's a, I guess you could call it, there are two churches, a regular church and an old church, and there's the orphanage, and two nearby houses you can also access. Stealthy, if you just want to put like a small video of like showcasing the map, if you can get your hands on that, that'd be amazing. And I'll go into detail about some sections of the map. Now, let's say you get the let's say you're heading towards the orphanage, the namesake of the map. If you're heading towards the orphanage, you're likely heading towards an objective or just running your butt off from the ghost. And one fun little fact about the orphanage is that I believe it's the section of the map where all these baby dolls hang. And basically every section of the map has its own little scary features. Now, if you... And this is another thing. This is going more into game mechanics, but there are these bottles and cans that you can walk on, and if you can walk on them, and if you do walk on them, you'll get those massive explosions the DVD killer gets whenever somebody messes up a generator or something? The ghost gets something like that. It'll immediately, it's like a loud noise notification, and the ghost will start hanging over there. Now the problem is, they're already super hard to see because you need to look at the ground for them. And then they're even worse to see when they're invisible and you have to pull out the camera to see them and avoid stepping on them so the ghost isn't on your ass. Anyway, there is a few other noise-making mechanics. There are a bunch of hanging baby dolls that I hate. I hate that area. Ryraps does too. But, God, those baby dolls are just, nope. And if you walk into them, they, rattle and make noise. So that also helps with the ghost finding you. You can also there are also some weird magical locations, there's this mirror you can walk through that will transport you to a place that can't be accessed in any other way. There's a basement with like a bunch of graves in it, and it's like made out of actual stone. There's also an elevator that leads to the basement of one of the maps. And sorry. If you get each the houses don't really have much to them. Like at least like one of the houses has the mirror, and a bunch of them have one of them has like a red room that they can access. Wait, no, I'm pretty sure it's the orphanage that has the mirror. But one of the houses does not really have like such a thing that you can do. There's no like super secret entrance to access in one of the houses. There's also a bridge, and this bridge actually contains a pretty nice Easter egg. By the way, the map is all out horrifying with how ambient and dark it is. 9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10 if I'm being generous. Now, start with the bridge. Back to the bridge. There are two things that happen on the bridge. A bunch of pigeons or crows or some kind of bird will fall from the sky dead on the bridge. And two, there's this, if you pull out your camera, there is this like person cut in half at the waist, so they're missing their bottom half, and they're a rotting corpse with their arms strung to one end of the bridge or the other. I'll see if I can get a picture of that and get it in the video. Maybe. But, moving on to one of my favorite features about this game, the jump scares. This game has, the developers of this game programmed multitudes of jump scares. And if you walk into a certain area, there's a chance you'll trigger a jump scare located in that respective area. It's terrifying, especially when you don't know when they could happen, when they're going to happen, or what they are. Especially the devs themselves have said that there are some jump scares that people haven't seen at all yet. So you could be jump scared at any time, any place, by anything. And it is honestly terrifying. It might even make the horror worse, since you know you're gonna get jump scared and you just don't know when it's gonna happen. I love it. The map is so interactive, all the jump scares. It makes the game amazing for me. But that's just my personal view. And now we'll talk about something a little less positive, at least compared to everything else. Now, there are plenty of bugs, but those bugs mainly have to do with the servers. When you're in a game, there's not many bugs that I remember. Most of the bugs seem to happen with servers and lobbies, and some people have had to restart Steam just to play the game because of them. So basically, this game does have game-breaking bugs, but they're rare and they happen in the lobby, so they don't happen while you're actually having fun with the game, unlike Dead by Daylight, where you could have a game-breaking bug as you're having the most fun part of that entire match. Now, aside from that, there are very few bugs, which I'm proud of. Well, there probably are plenty of other bugs, but I haven't seen them or heard of them yet. It mainly seems to be something with servers and lobbies, though. And to top it all off, there is one sort of game-breaking bug that I have seen in the game so far. Basically, you can revive people. If somebody gets caught by the ghost, there will be like this shovel symbol with a grave right behind it, and it'll have a number next to it. That's how many revives your group has left as a total. If you have 1 revive, you can only revive 1 person. If you have 11 revives, you can revive 11 people. Or revive the same person 11 times. If they have to do that, you suck at the game. And if everyone gets caught by the spirit, if you get caught by the spirit, you're sent to purgatory. And the purgatory is actually really nice because nobody is ever... You could end up in the same purgatory, but basically, you could end up in the same purgatory, but there are multiple different purgatories. Like, there's this one in a morgue, there's this one with a wedding dress in it. And there are all these tiny rooms, and there's always a floating mirror in purgatory, and that mirror is used to spectate your teammates. Now how the reviving works. If you want to be revived, everyone on your team aside from you needs to be revived. Well, let's just say there are 4 survivors, and 1's been taken so far. While they're in purgatory, they'll see well, they won't see it at first, they'll have to find it, but there will be like a tombstone thing that says their name and the date. To revive someone, the person in purgatory needs to read out that name and that date, and then their friends need to go into the tombstone and the cemetery and find the corresponding grave that corresponds with that, like, plate. And then, once you interact with it, they come back to life. If you interact with the wrong tomb, it's a massive noise that attracts the ghost. Moving on to another game mechanic, the EMF could lie to you. Because there are these 2 turtles on the map. Well, I guess they're not turtles, they're tortoises. But there are these 2 tortoises on the map. And if you go near them, your EMF will be set off. So that's another reason to look at the ground. See if there's any tortoises nearby. One has like a skull with a candle on it, on its shell. And then the other is just full-on swag hip-hop turtle. DJ Turtle. Literally, it has a speaker on its back, and it has a pair of headphones. It is a DJ Turtle. It's like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, except it's not a teenager and it's not a mutant. It's just got the turtle with the rocking speakers and headphones. It's a DJ. But yeah, that's pretty much gameplay covered and the game covered. But now I'm going to talk about devs and how the development of the game is going, because this sort of influences my opinion on it a bit. Right now, Haunt Chaser isn't the developer's main job. Their main jobs, they have different jobs that they need to attend, so Haunt Chaser is like their second priority. And because of this is why people haven't added the second, They haven't added the second, like, season, as it's called, or chapter, or whatever you want to call it. So, because it's not their main priority, this second update hasn't come out, which, while understandable, may eventually kill the game off, because I see this game staying alive as long as it keeps content coming. Like, sure, it's not gonna match Dead by Daylight, even though it could if you get certain licenses. And to move those, you need to they need to move, like, sort of not move their priorities around. Their top job should still stay their top priority. But I'm saying, if they don't like add the new chapter soon or anytime, the game will die off, which is what I'm trying to say. Sorry for my god-awful English. English totally isn't my first language. It's totally not. I'm totally just from another country, and this is not my normal language. Anyway, that's pretty much my thoughts. They need to add content, or else the game's going to die. I hate to say it, because I love the game, I love the gameplay. It could be Dead by Daylight competition, but right now, if they don't add content, I feel like it is going to die off, because look at Dead by Daylight. It's got licenses galore. Pinhead, Halloween. I'm not happy about that Pinhead DLC, by the way, Behavior, you know what you did. And there are 3 other licenses that immediately come to mind. Stranger Things, which Behavior is actually losing. There's also Nightmare on Elm Street and Leatherface. There's also a bunch of other licenses that I don't care to remember at the moment, so yeah. Anyway, final thoughts on Haunt Chaser. 7 out of 10. The fact that it hasn't added their promise, they promised like the second update is coming, and then but really the fact that their lack of content could be what kills the game is sort of what like bumps it down on my list. I'm sorry to say that, Haunt Chaser devs, but it is. So, this is Dragon King from the Horror Network. Have a good day, everyone. Signing off. Roll the outro.